Hello, good evening, and welcome to our devotion for reading through the Bible in a year in the one-year Bible. And today is September 19th, and our Old Testament reading for today is from Isaiah chapter 30, verse 12 through chapter 33, verse 9. And it's the fifth division, or the fifth summons, if you want to call it that, in this section of Isaiah. And this particular division is Isaiah 31, 1 through 32:20. That's right in the middle of today's reading, so we'll look at it. The second division was found in chapter 29, verses 1 through 14, and there it taught us that there is still hope in the Lord, even when all earthly hope is gone. The reason for this is that God is able to transform our lives. Isaiah illustrates this truth by accentuating, now in this section, the actual historical situation that existed in 701 BC, when the politicians of Israel were trusting in Egypt and the Assyrians were dominating the whole world, it seemed. Now, Isaiah wanted to show that theology is not just philosophy. It is real, it is practical, it applies to us and our lives directly. Speaking of our lives, there are two very important questions about our lives that must be answered. Where are you going, and what are you looking at? Isaiah asked these questions of his people and of us. His people were looking to Pharaoh for shelter in a day of national emergency. So, what about us? Where are we going? What are we looking at? Every day brings us threats and needs, great and small. And Isaiah's questions are vitally important for us too. What direction are we moving in? Where are our eyes fixed? As the song Day by Day states, we have the opportunity as believers in Jesus every day to see Him more clearly and to love Him more dearly. Now imagine what it must have been like for God's people to look to Egypt, of all places, for help. Egypt was not their deliverer. Egypt was the ones who had enslaved their ancestors. And imagine looking to Pharaoh after another Pharaoh had breathed out murderous threats against them. It was sheer lunacy, yet whenever we move in any direction other than to follow Christ, whenever we take our eyes off of our Savior, we are doing what Paul pointed out regarding the Galatians. They were deserting God for those who by nature are not God's, and they were leaving the way of salvation in favor of, quote, weak and beggarly elements, which could only bring them back into bondage. Now, this can be said in Judah's favor in Israel's day. At least they were in a serious life and death national crisis, so they might have some excuse. The Assyrian invasion spelled the end of all they had and hoped to have. But it is not always, in fact, not even usually, the big occasions that defeat us. Very often, the big things send us fleeing to Jesus in a more determined way. On the other hand, very often it is the small daily decisions that we make or fail to make. There is the silly sounding decision whether to get out of bed and read our Bibles and seek our Savior, or do we have 20 more minutes under the blankets? This little decision might be silly sounding, but it is actually deadly serious. Do we fill our eyes with Him before the world clamors for our attention? Do we sit in His presence and commit ourselves to serving Him and others in the day ahead? If we could only do that, we would be winning the battle even before reaching the battlefield. So, the question remains, where are we going? What are we gazing at? May God be with you and bless you.